Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and a galactic astrologer. This video is a galactic astrology reading of the Sagittarius full moon at 20 degrees 39 minutes on June 11th, 2025. Welcome. What I do in these videos, I put an outer layer of fixed stars, celestial bodies, and galactic points to the traditional Western tropical astrology wheel. And that is to help us come closer to identifying ourselves with our multi-dimensional self that is so vast beyond our current physical realm here. And when we are remembering our soul's vastness, we transform. So I hope this reading is an inspiration to go beyond the view that you have of who you truly are and go into an expansion, because this full moon is very expansive. We are about to make a quantum leap that is going to be lasting into the future. And in this video, we'll talk more about this quantum leap. What you'll receive in this video are 3 galactic energetic themes that I've pulled out from the full moon chart. And also at the end, you'll receive 3 questions should you want to integrate this full moon in Sagittarius energy some more. The Sagittarius full moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius is in opposition with the Lepus constellation and the fixed star Nihal at 20 degrees of Gemini, where the sun is. This full moon is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is now at 0 degrees of Cancer, finally, having worked through some heavy lifting with the Orion constellation between 16 and 29 degrees of Gemini. But now Jupiter has entered the 0 degree Cancer point at this full moon and is ruling this full moon. So this is a significant statement by Jupiter at this time. So even though it's a full moon, which is often a culmination and release of something, there is an element of new beginning to this full moon with that Jupiter 0 degree of Cancer statement. This Sagittarius full moon is connecting us with a higher frequency. Lepus-Nihal is associated with the blue ray, and we'll talk much more about Lepus-Nihal in Energetic Theme 1 coming up. Thank you for the beautiful comments that you're leaving on this channel. I am so grateful and humble that you're here. So if you're curious to join our membership here on this YouTube channel, go to the pinned comment or description box for a link to join us. And the members only videos are available at the galaxy level and above. This full moon is speaking of that we are now in that quantum leap where we are remembering our soul. And this soul remembrance is also encouraging us to reach for a higher frequency and trust that our soul is held in a higher frequency at all times. In universal wisdom, at this full moon, there is an element of soul remembrance. This high frequency reminder from Lepus-Nihal highlighting this full moon is supporting us to remember that our soul is always held at a higher frequency and that we always have access to universal wisdom. We are developing that inner knowing and understanding that we're always held and supported by spirit and universal wisdom at all times. And at the soul level, we are going through the motions, the wave of emotions often here on the earthly plane. But at the higher frequency, at the higher level, it's to support us to learn and expand and go through the experience of life here, which is all contributing to learning the lesson that we're here for. Once we realize this higher perspective that our soul is always supported and held by universal energy, we are also evolving into shifting our perspective. This new perspective at the soul level, we can't, if you come into that understanding about yourself, you can't go back to a smaller version of yourself. This full moon is really reminding us that this is an opportunity to see things differently. And often it starts with ourselves, that we can see ourselves in a new light, but it also trickles out to the rest of our lives. We can change perspectives on the role of our relationships in our lives and the role of the experiences that we're going through. But at the higher level, at the higher frequency, at the soul level, it's all a learning and a lesson at the same time. So this full moon is creating a quantum leap, which we are going to work on for quite a while. And we'll talk more about that in Energetic Theme 1 coming up. This door opening is also encouraging us to listen to those creative sparks and creative responses within, and notice the signs and synchronicities to a greater extent at this time, because now we're creating a bigger vision for ourselves and our lives so that we can step into a bigger perspective and hold that for the future. It's about being in alignment with the poles of life and also be our fullest self, to bring our whole self out so that we can stay in rhythm with the natural cycles of our universe and planet Earth. This full moon is connected to the new moon in Sagittarius that was on December 1st, 2024. So I've put the link to the new moon video in Sagittarius from December 1st, 2024, should you want to revisit, because what you started back then in December 2024 is culminating now. I've placed a link in the description box and the pinned comment should you want to revisit that new moon video from December 2024. Are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Download my Galactic Alignments reference guide. There's a link in the pinned comment and description box below. Before we go into the full moon chart, I'd like to share what the galactic energetic themes are. The first theme is quantum leap for the future. And here we're going to talk about Lepus-Nihal at 20 degrees of Gemini, and also Orion-Betelgeuse at 29 degrees of Gemini. The second theme is Soul Remembrance Transforms. And here we're going to talk about Mars's conjunction with Hydra-Alphard. And the third theme is Creative Responses from Within. And here we're going to talk about Pallas Athene in Aquarius and also Eris in Aries. All right, are you ready for the Sagittarius full moon chart next? All right, here is the Sagittarius full moon chart. And as you can see, we have the moon and the sun in opposition, as every full moon is an opposition between the moon and the sun. And Lepus-Nihal is in opposition with the full moon and in conjunction with the sun at 20 degrees of Gemini. This is a powerful reminder and alignment to higher frequency. And we're going to talk more about Lepus-Nihal and its association with high frequency blue ray energy. And also I have highlighted Jupiter there at 0 degree of Cancer, finally. And we have felt Jupiter's work with the Orion constellation in the second and third decan of Gemini over many weeks now. But finally, Jupiter is in the watery sign of Cancer now. Yay! Jupiter, however, is in conjunction, still considered a conjunction to Orion-Betelgeuse at 29 degrees of Gemini. And as you notice there, Mercury, very close to Jupiter. I work with orbs around 3 degrees, so I wouldn't consider this as a conjunction, but some may. And why Mercury's placement is important at 4 degrees of Cancer is that, just a little mental note here, that the new moon in Cancer will happen at 4 degrees of Cancer later in the month of June. So that's just a little mental note for that. And that's why Mercury has an important role here at this full moon as well. So here on the sky map, I have highlighted Lepus-Nihal and Orion-Betelgeuse, which is really where the focus of this full moon is from a galactic perspective. And I want to share a little bit about Lepus-Nihal. Lepus is the constellation, the Hare, which is located south of the Orion constellation and close to the Sirius dual star system as well. And Lepus-Nihal in particular is associated with the blue ray frequency, which is a very high frequency associated with the sixth dimension. And if you have alignments to either conjunctions or oppositions in particular, you may also be associated with the indigo ray, because Lepus-Nihal in particular is, I often see indigo souls being either associated in conjunction or opposition in their astrology chart to Lepus-Nihal, but also other aspects are often playing a role as well. And at the soul level, indigo souls are here to support the increased vibration and raising of the consciousness on Earth at this time. So in this video, we're talking about soul remembrance. So take a look at your alignments to this full moon. So yes, Lepus-Nihal is very much a high vibrating frequency that we are connecting in with now at the Sagittarius full moon, because we are in a new beginning of some sort while we are culminating something from December 2024. And it's this remembrance of our soul that also supports us in that quantum leap that we are in, that is holding our future next. And in the energetic theme coming up next here, we're going to talk about Jupiter's square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, because this is an important time of expansion and growth that is very much driven now by Jupiter moving into Cancer and building that strong square with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, alongside the profound minor grand trine that is now building with Neptune and Saturn in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus still in Taurus, but soon in Gemini. So that is really an important energy that is holding a space for us to make that quantum leap into the future energy. And Lepus-Nihal here is a statement at this full moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius that is connecting us to this high frequency blue ray energy. All right, let's dive into energetic theme 1, quantum leap for the future. So here we have the first theme that I've called Quantum Leap for the Future. And here we have that famous minor grand trine that is building between Pegasus sheet at 29 degrees of Pisces, conjunct Saturn and Neptune there in Aries, very early degrees. And Aquila Altair at 2 degrees of Aquarius, conjunct Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. And also Pleiades here at 0 degree of Gemini, and Uranus is making his way soon to Gemini in July, but now still at 28 degrees of Taurus, but conjunct Pleiades Alcyon, which is a building conjunction, which is going to grow much stronger come July. And this minor grand trine is fundamental for our transformation next and over the next 6 months. So once we have this minor grand trine active as Uranus moves into Gemini on July 7th, this minor grand trine will be in effect all the way to early December this year. So over the next 6 months, this minor grand trine will support our evolution, humanity's evolution, because it's all outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. This is permanent transformation. And Saturn being now in the mix here is going to bring in what is absolutely required and the things that we absolutely need to. Saturn brings the clarity around what actually needs to be done. So the big three here, Pegasus sheet, Aquila Altair, and Pleiades. So Pegasus sheet conjunct Neptune and Saturn are bringing in the sense of liberation, expansion, freedom, And Aquila Altair is the messenger of what those permanent transformations that Pluto is bringing in are. And it's the messenger at the soul level. Aquila Altair is the eagle's view that is bringing in the big picture. And Pleiades, of course, is the collaboration of where we are going next. How does that quantum leap look like? Our guides who are more advanced associated with Pleiades are guiding us at the individual soul level. Many of us have guides from Pleiades at this time, and Uranus is that galactic connection that we are expanding now. This is super interesting, and we'll talk much more about in the coming videos about how this minor grand trine is playing out as we go through the flow of life here the next coming months. And not to forget, the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra is the ultimate infusion of universal wisdom driving this evolution that we're in. It truly is transformational times that we're in, quantum leap type of times. So taking it down to focusing on the full moon here, we have a grand cross between the sun and the moon, the full moon, and the nodal axis at 23 degrees of Pisces and Virgo, respectively. This is an active grand cross with the nodal axis to indicate for us how important this full moon is in terms of the direction we're going forward. And the Lepus-Nihal energy is infusing that high frequency, 6-dimensional connection so that we can open up to remember our soul's journey. If you recall, just 2 weeks ago at the new moon in Gemini, Jupiter was squaring the nodes, and now here at the full moon is squaring the nodes. So it's also giving us the direction that this full moon is super important to pay attention to just because of that high frequency energy coming in. And just 3 days after this full moon, the sun will be at 23 degrees of Gemini, conjunct Orion-Alnilam. And then that T-square with the nodal axis will be exact. And Alnilam in the Orion constellation is associated with messages and often public messages. So look out for that. It's going to be like June 14th then. It may be some collective public messages coming out due to that T-square between the sun and the nodal axis exact at 23 degrees. And here we have the square that I mentioned earlier between Saturn and Neptune in Aries, conjunct Pegasus sheet, in square with Jupiter and to some extent Mercury as well in Cancer there, conjunct Orion-Betelgeuse. This is also a square to supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra. And this is really where the growth opportunity at this full moon lies, between that square that we have between Pegasus sheet of liberation and Orion-Betelgeuse, that inner riches to realize the inner treasures that we have, that Jupiter is now there to bring in something new for you in the 0 degree point there. And Cancer is that intuitive self. There is something here that we have the opportunity at this full moon to expand into, but it comes from within. And that square to supergalactic center has to do with mastery of the relationship with ourselves and others. But in this case, it is very much focused on our own understanding of our soul's journey and remembering that treasure that we have within ourselves. And once we remember that soul essence and associated with our soul journey, things change. The way we see ourselves and everything else changes. It's a permanent transformation that this full moon is supporting us to remember. There's a permanent transformation in that understanding. And this full moon is an injection of high frequency energy to support us to reach higher. Jupiter and Mercury are also in opposition with the galactic center at 27 degrees of Sagittarius here. So 2 galactic points are activated within this grand cross that we have between Pegasus sheet, galactic center, supergalactic center, and Orion-Betelgeuse at this time. So here comes the kicker, because we also have a third galactic point activated at this full moon. And Jupiter's ingress to Cancer also provides a trine to the Shapley Attractor at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And this is really where the flow is coming from. The Shapley Attractor is the largest driver of universal wisdom that we know to date. And this trine is just unstoppable in terms of allowing us to expand, to make that quantum leap, or at least beginning a quantum leap for the future. At the soul level, this quantum leap is about freedom, liberation, and expansion into an understanding that creates inner peace and alignment with universal wisdom. So here I just wanted to highlight Orion-Betelgeuse. Orion-Betelgeuse at 29 degrees of Gemini. And I wanted to just show the size of Betelgeuse as opposed to our sun, for example. As you can see, Betelgeuse is huge. It's a red pulsing fixed star. And some have also said that Betelgeuse is ready to end its life cycle and go supernova. So the symbolism of that is also very tightly linked into today's life cycle, the way we describe it. Antares is part of the stargate between Antares and Aldebaran at 10 degrees of Sagittarius and Gemini, respectively. So Antares also provides the size comparison here. But I'd like you to also hone in on that little yellow circle there and to contemplate the size of our sun. It's like a little mini dot there inside that circle that I pointed out. And our sun is super small compared to Betelgeuse. So symbolically, Jupiter conjunct Betelgeuse is this enormous expansion, the opportunity to completely go beyond what we think is possible. And this goes also with our inner view of who we think we are. Jupiter conjunct Betelgeuse is a statement to the opportunity that we have to expand beyond what we believe is possible, beyond what we believe who we truly are. So this 0-degree Jupiter is super powerful, and it's a signature of a quantum leap. So this full moon is packed with high frequency energy and packed with Jupiter's influence conjunct Betelgeuse there to expand, to go beyond a cycle, go beyond a perspective, go beyond a belief that we have that may need to be stretched a little bit further. This full moon in Sagittarius is a call for us to leave limitations behind and step into a new possibility, a quantum leap. All right, are you ready for the second theme that I called Soul Remembrance Transforms? All right, let's take a look at that theme next. As I mentioned earlier in this video, we have Mercury at this full moon at the new moon in Cancer point at 4 degrees of Cancer that's coming up later in the month of June. So Mercury is pre-visiting an area that is going to be highlighted by the next new moon. And as you can notice here is that Mercury is in sextile with Venus at 5 degrees of Taurus. And we also have Venus in opposition with the Shapley Attractor. So part of this flow, this push of universal wisdom coming in is also a direct link into Venus there. And the sextile with Mercury here is a very supportive energy. Mercury likely is downloading some messages for the upcoming new moon in Cancer. Venus here wants us to stay grounded and listen to those influences that are coming through now. And if we continue to connect with Venus here, she is also in square with Pluto and Aquila-Altair. And that builds a T-square with the Shapley Attractor as well. Again, this is a growth opportunity linked into those high-level messages that Aquila-Altair is bringing in that has to do with our permanent transformation. So Venus at 5 degrees of Taurus here has a really big role in connecting us with Mercury and the 4 degree of Cancer point that looks into the future, the next new moon, but at the same time, encouraging us to allow the Shapley Attractor to influence us with all of that powerful universal wisdom and high frequency infuse at this time. And if we are staying with Pluto here, there is a yod that is building here with Mercury at 4 degrees and Jupiter coming along as well, conjunct Orion-Betelgeuse. And Mars's position conjunct Hydra-Alphard at 27 degrees of Leo there is going to proceed into a exact yod as we come later into June. And if we combine these energies, we get a focus on Pluto there at 3 degrees of Aquarius, conjunct Aquila Altair at 2 degrees of Aquarius at this time. And this energy is linked together by 3 personal planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars. So this is also speaking to permanent transformational at the individual soul level. And once Mars is proceeding into Virgo there and reaching 3 degrees of Virgo on June 23rd to about June 26th, we may receive some additional messages coming out of this full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th. When Mars is at 3-4 degrees of Virgo there, this energy formation is a fact. Mars conjunct Hydra-Alphard at 27 degrees of Leo is associated with Kundalini energy, the life force that runs through each one of us. And Mars is asking us to come closer and align with our own life force, our own flow in our body to Kundalini energy, life force, universal wisdom, whatever we want to call it. And Mars being here now, and this yod that is in effect here right around 3rd week of June, 4th week of June, end of June, is a strong indication that there is an alignment to our higher self, our higher soul remembrance that is important at this time. And in the members only video, we are going to take this energy and work with our own personal planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, and see how this energy from theme 2 is displaying in our own charts and how we can work with it. So if you're curious about viewing the members only video, join our membership, and it can be viewed at the galaxy level and above. So you'll find a link in the pinned comment and description box below to join us. So yes, isn't this wonderful that we are in a phase now where we are intentionally connecting with our soul's journey at a very high frequency, and we are supported by the collective energies to do this. Is very exciting because it is a transformation of our perspective and connection with our soul's journey. And Mars is doing also the heavy lifting for us here to connect. Mercury's messages. So join us in the membership to get that extra deep dive in your own personal energies associated with energetic theme 2. Soul Remembrance Transforms. All right, are you ready for the 3rd energetic theme? Creative response from within. So here we have the 3rd theme that I've called Creative Response from Within. And what we're having here is a grand fire trine. And we can start with Eris and Chiron there at 25 and 26 degrees of Aries, respectively. Opposite Boots Actress at 24 degrees of Libra. But we also have Mars there, as we know, conjunct Hydra-Alphard. Mars at 26 degrees of Leo, Hydra-Alphard at 27 degrees of Leo. And also that trine then from both of these to galactic center at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is a powerful energy that fires up this full moon. But we also have a grand cross. And I have pulled in Pallas Athene here to this mix because Pallas Athene, as you have learned in previous videos, Pallas Athene has a significant role of her current journey in Aquarius. In the third decan of Aquarius, she's very much a way shower. And right now, Pallas Athene is in retrograde at 25 degrees of Aquarius in opposition at this full moon with Mars conjunct Hydra-Alphard. And also this Grand Cross is built of Uranus in Taurus at 28 degrees conjunct the Pleiades, and also with Centaurus constellation, primarily Alpha Centauri at 29 degrees of Scorpio. So this is an important Grand Cross that links together energy from Pleiades, from Hydra-Alphard and Centaurus. Pleiades, the guidance, Hydra-Alphard, life force, and Centaurus, simply unconditional universal love. And Pallas' role here is an important one because Pallas Athene is giving us guidance on the future. And currently in retrograde, she's also encouraging us to go within and connect with that life force. That opposition to Mars conjunct Hydra-Alphard is very much call for us to balance this energy within ourselves. And as you can see here, as we combine these energies, the focus on Mars here as the masculine, as the action taker, as the impact maker, but also Pallas's strategic neutrality almost, or detachment to emotion. That is the guidance on how to approach this connection to our soul's journey. Pallas Athene is showing us that in order to connect to our own wisdom, and that lies in that life force, we are encouraged to detach from our emotional body. Pallas Athene has a lot of clarity because she's not swayed by the emotional wave. And that is also the guidance for the future on how to connect with our soul wisdom and our life force, is to allow our emotional body to be neutral as we download the wisdom from within. And just to note also, Aries conjunct Chiron. Aries is that heart-centered, unrestricted energy that many of us are working on getting into. What is my unique self? And Chiron is there to support us transform that energy so that we get more connection to our heart energy. So as part of this theme, I wanted to highlight that creative response from within is very much supported by Pallas Athene and Eris to encourage us to align with that unique creative response that comes from within. And I included Eris's orbit here. I always love to point out Eris's unique orbit because that is symbolic of the uniqueness that we carry within. And Pallas Athene, that detached, clear wisdom that comes through Pallas Athene in retrograde, is the neutrality of that energy is very much how we connect with that unique life force. So the guidance from both Pallas Athene and Eris are at this full moon is paramount. Eris and Pallas Athene are really representative of that energy at this Sagittarius full moon that we are encouraged to open up to step into a quantum leap that will last for the future, because now we are encouraged to remember that uniqueness of our soul, and embrace it. So it was about 2 years ago that Mars was conjunct Hydra-Alphard. So think back to 2 years ago and notice the progress that you have made in terms of expanding, in terms of getting to know your true self, your bigger self, your multidimensional self, because Mars is here to make a mark, supporting us to take the next step on this journey. This grand fire trine is also in the third decan, in the late degrees of the respective signs. So this fire has a very spiritual quality to it and is encouraging us to reach for a higher frequency and passion in our lives at this time. So this Sagittarius full moon is just so jam-packed of powerful energy, fueled by this blue ray, high frequency, futuristic energy by Lepus-Nihal in the constellation of the Hare. The Hare is also sometimes associated with abundance, inner abundance. And this may be the ultimate message of this full moon, to work with your creative responses from within, reach for greater understanding of your soul's journey, your soul remembrance. And in order to make that quantum leap, we have to have a long vision. This minor grand trine for the rest of the year until early December is going to support us all to make these quantum leaps that we are now due to make, both individually and collectively. So at this Sagittarius full moon, notice those creative sparks, those creative responses that comes from within. And because with those responses or nudges are also signs and synchronicities that may show up. And this is really the language of the soul. So the more you go deeper with noticing these things in your life, the more you will go deeper with understanding your soul's essence and journey. Are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Download my Galactic Alignments reference guide. There is a link in the pinned comment and description box below. So I have a couple of questions. Should you want to integrate this Sagittarius full moon energy some more? The first question is, and it's regarding that minor grand trine that is going to be so fundamental for our evolution and holding all the way to December. There is support. You have support for a quantum leap at this time, over this period of time, but particularly at the Sagittarius full moon. And what is that? That is going to take you to the next level. So this may be helpful to sit with, and you may know already what this is. Your soul knows where you're going next. This quantum leap is also for the long term, and you are held in support for that. The second question is related to Mars's conjunction with Hydra-Alphard. And this is a question around your inner conversation, since the Mars opposition with Pallas Athene and retrograde there in Aquarius, this opposition is asking us to take action on that inner conversation, because now Mars is really here to help us make that leap. And what is that action that you can take based on what your inner conversation is telling you? And you may ask, how do I notice what it is that my inner conversation is saying to me? Inner conversation that comes from the heart is not one of doubt. It just is, and it's very supportive. So listen carefully to that supportive energy within yourself that wants you to expand, that wants you to flourish. That's the inner voice to follow, not the one with the self-doubt and what if and oh, I can't and all of that we all have. Behind that self-doubt is a loving inner conversation, inner voice that you also have the opportunity to follow and listen to. So Mars is really here to help us take action on that inner conversation that is supportive. Because at this full moon in Sagittarius, it very much is a deepening of our soul remembrance. And the third question is, what is that creative response within yourself? Because as a result of Mars's conjunction to Hydra-Alphard is also this urge to take action and listen to that creative spark that is created. This creative response is based in wisdom and is very unique to you. So what is that creative response that is now coming to the surface for you? And this creative response is also the signature of that high frequency blue ray that we also have an infusion of through this Sagittarius new moon, through that opposition of the full moon to Lepus-Nihal. Good luck in deepening your journey with these questions at this time. So if you love the questions as part of these videos, I also recommend my book, Wisdom Beyond What You Know: How to Shift from Being Driven by the Mind to Living from the Heart and Intuition. This is a book that includes questions as part of each of the 18 chapters. So this is the Sagittarius full moon video. I am so grateful for you being here. And if you're curious about joining our membership, check out the pinned comment and description box below for the link to join us there. Thank you so much for listening and watching to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and a galactic astrologer. Visit me on ulrikasullivan.com, and I can't wait to come back with another video for you soon. Bye.